All right, so we are doing GCF, greatest common factor. And the way that I like to do GCF is with a little method called the upside down birthday cake. Might sound silly, but it really gets students' attention and they seem to remember it, whether it is May or January. They always remember that upside down birthday cake. So that's what I use. So I'll show you how to use that right now. So it says, what's the greatest common factor of 30 and 45? So I'm going to start with those two numbers. It doesn't matter which one goes first. I usually just put the one they put first. All right, and you kind of have like an upside down division bar. All right, this is the first layer of your cake. So then you ask yourself, what is a number that goes into both of these two numbers? Okay, big, small, it doesn't matter which one. Just think of a number that goes into both of these numbers right here. Well, this one ends in a 0, this one ends in a 5, so I know that 5 has to go into both of these. All right, so that number that goes into both of them goes on the outside. So now you ask yourself, okay, well, how many times does 5 go into 30? And that would be 6. Okay, how many times does 5 go into 45? That would be 9. Okay, there's my next layer. Okay, so let me just backtrack 1 second. 30 divided by 5 gave me 6. 45 divided by 5 gave me 9. Remember, I picked this 5 out here. I wanted to know what's the number that goes into both of those right there. So that's how that 5's out there. So now, you can kind of ignore this line now and you're just looking at that 6 and that 9, okay? So what is a number that goes into 6 and it also goes into 9? Hopefully you're thinking 3. Okay, so that 3 goes on the outside. And now once again you ask yourself, how many times does 3 go into 6? That would be 2. How many times does 3 go into 9? That would be 3. Okay, so you can kind of see that it's a layered cake, but it's obviously upside down, so that's why we call it the upside down birthday cake. So now once again you can ignore these levels above you. You're just looking at the 2 and the 3. What is a number that goes into 2 and it also goes into 3? Well, the only number that I know of is 1. And you're happy to see a 1 because once you see that 1, you know that you are done. When you get a 1 on the outside, you know you cannot go any further and you are finished. So since we're finding the GCF, all I have to do is look at these numbers right here on the outside, and that's going to tell me my GCF. Now, a common mistake that students make is they add these numbers on the side. We're not adding numbers, we're multiplying them. So if I do 5 times 3, that's 15. 15 times 1 gives me 15. So I know that my GCF of these numbers right here is 15. Remember, you multiply these. 5 times 3 times 1 gives me 15. Okay, let's look at another one. All right, so this one says greatest common divisor. Same thing, you're still going to do your upside down birthday cake. They just worded it a little differently, but don't worry, we're doing the same thing. So I'm going to start with the two numbers they gave me. Okay, so remember, first thing you ask yourself is, what is a number that goes into 6 and it also goes into 13? Okay, well think about it. What gives me 6? 1 times 6, 2 times 3. Okay, well think about 13. What gives you 13? 1 and 13. So the factors that I just listed for 6, remember, they were 1 times 6, 2 times 3. What were the factors I listed for 13? Well, it was 1 and 13. Well, what's the only factor that's on both lists? And hopefully you're seeing it's a 1. The only thing that both those numbers share is a 1. So I'm going to put a 1 out here. And remember, I just told you once you get a 1 on the outside, you can't do anything else. So this is kind of a trick question that you know is probably going to be on a test someday. The GCF of 6 and 13 is just this 1 on the outside. Normally we multiply those numbers on the outside like we did up here, but there's no numbers to multiply on this one, so the answer is just 1. I just wanted to show you that tricky one in case it comes up sometime. All right, let's look at another one. 9 and 18. Okay, start with my two numbers they gave me. Do my upside down division bar. Okay, so now what is a number that goes into 9 and 18? The first one that comes to my mind is 9. Okay, so remember, 9 divided by 9 gives me 1. 18 divided by 9 gives me 2. There's my next layer. Alright, so what is a number that goes into 1 and it also goes into 2? Well, the only number there is 1. Remember, you take your numbers on the outside and you multiply them. You do not add. You have to multiply them. So 9 times 1 gives me 9. Alright, but I do want to show you, if we had chosen, let's still use 9 and 18. Alright, I chose 9 out here. It doesn't have to be 9. You also could have picked 3. Okay, 3 is a common factor for 9 and 18, so I'm going to pick 3. Alright, 9 divided by 3 gives me 3. 18 divided by 3 gives me 6. Okay, so my next layer, so remember, you can ignore this for right now. So if I'm just looking at 3 and 6, what is the number that goes into 3 and it also goes into 6? Well, that would be 3. Okay, 3 divided by 3 gives me 1. 6 divided by 3 gives me 2. Okay, looking at this one, what's the only number that goes into 1 and it also goes into 2? That would be 1. Once you get a 1 on the outside, you know you're done. So, remember, you're multiplying. 3 times 3, 9. 9 times 1, 9. So either way, I'm still going to get 9 as my answer. Okay? Last one. 12 and 96. Okay? 96 is a number that we don't interact with them a lot, so a lot of students might kind of have a panic mode, but remember, it's even, so it always has to work with an even number, and that would be 2. Okay, so now you ask yourself, how many times does 2 go into 12? That would be 6. How many times does 2 go into 96? And that would be 48. Okay, so now you've got these two numbers. All right, well, what goes into 6 and it also goes into 48? That would be 2 again. Could you pick something else? Absolutely. But I'm just picking, the first thing that comes to mind. All right, so 6 divided by 2 gives me 3. 48 divided by 2 gives me 24. Okay, now I'm looking at this layer. All right, well, what is a number that goes into 3 and it also goes into 24? Only thing that works is 3. So 3 divided by 3 is 1. 24 divided by 3 is 8. What's the only thing that goes into 1 and 8? The only factor they share is 1. I get a 1 on the outside, I know I'm done. I'm looking at these numbers right here on the side, and I'm going to multiply them. So 2 times 2 times 3 times 1. 2 times 2 is 4. 4 times 3 is 12. 12 times 1 is 12. So I know that it is 12.